Harry, welcome to the roller coaster, my friend. How are you?
Thanks. Yeah, good man. Yeah, long time no see. I'm doing well. Yeah,
Good stuff, good stuff. I mean, you've
yeah,
been really busy this year because I saw you back in February. You were on tour with the Wall
yeah,
musical,
yeah,
and you just wrapped up an American tour with one of your favorite artists. I remember you talking about it that it was going to be. You were
yeah,
super excited about it. So
yeah, yeah,
tell us a little bit about that experience because it was a very lengthy
yeah.
tour, wasn't it?
Yeah, we did. It was about 9 weeks, and we did 42 shows. So really long and tiring, but amazing. Yeah, with Les Claypool, who's his band was Primus. His main band is Primus, but he has a lot of other solo projects. And he had a band in like either 2000 or 2001, and they made a live record, and did some touring called the Frog Brigade. The long version is Colonel Claypool's Fearless Flying Frog Brigade, but it's quite a mouthful, so you just call it the Frog Brigade. Anyway, so that's been on hiatus for 20 years, and he decided he wanted to tour again with that band. So I got the gig. Jeff, who played in the band originally, keyboards, got the job with the Grateful Dead, well, Dead and Company. So that's why the spot opened up. So I got the gig. So yeah, we've just done 42 shows in North America, and it was amazing, dream come true, because Les is one of my favorite musicians of all time. So it was just incredible, amazing time.
Yeah, I mean, 42 shows. Was that like the entire stretch, or did you guys have any breaks in between? There was any
No
like
breaks.
no breaks.
No,
How were you
no, just
traveling? Was
every
it
week.
was like tour buses
Like
and
tour bus, yeah, tour bus. I think we took one flight, but tour bus, yeah.
how do you find that nowadays still? Do you still find the thrill of being on a tour
It's,
bus and traveling around?
uh, it's fine. It's a pain in the neck. The hardest thing for me is that I can't sleep in the bunk when the bus is moving. So it's a nightmare. I'm just permanently exhausted because I can never get any proper sleep. But at least on days off, we had hotels. So for 2 or 3 nights a week, I would be in a hotel. So at least I could sleep 3 nights a week.
What was the
Um,
touring party? Was it like a big touring party? How many musicians
Yeah,
and
so there are five bands. So rhythm section at the back was like me, and vibes and melodica. Sorry, vibes and marimba and some percussion and then drums, and then Les and Sean at the front, guitar and bass at the front. I know normally the rhythm section includes the bass, but Les is at the front. Really, he's more like a lead instrument. So us, and then the crew was. I don't know how many crew, 15 maybe, 15 crew, something like that, sort of normal size crew.
Mhm.
And yeah, it was great. They were on one bus, the crew, and the band were on another. It was fantastic. Really enjoyed it.
In terms of rehearsals and preparation to go on
Mm.
tour, because it's the music, it's not that simple and straightforward. There's quite a lot of
Yeah, yeah.
intricacies to it. So how was the preparation for the tour? I mean, did you guys get like from less like the songs in advance that you would
Yeah,
get into the studio with some homework done, and then how
yeah,
long in
yeah.
the studio would you actually work together as a band?
Oh, hello.
Hi,
Carl, you still there?
I'm here. Here, yeah.
Oh, Carl, you still there? Hello?
Hi, hi.
Hey, you still
Hey,
there?
yeah, yeah, all good.
You disappeared there for a minute. Let me just get it back to full screen. There we go. I got the question though. Yeah, he sent us like a Spotify playlist with 42 songs on it. So I learned 42 songs and we played about 15 of them. So did a lot of homework for, I don't know, a couple of months leading up to it. And then we rehearsed for, I don't know, a week and a half or something like that. Did like 10 days or something like that in the studio, Les's studio. And then hit the road.
Fantastic,
Hit the
fantastic.
road running.
How is it
Yeah.
for you, Harry, to kind of like swing from different like mindsets in regards to writing music and contributing with other musicians and contributing with other producers? You know,
Mm.
say working with in Harry Waters' band, like going from that mood, which I personally really like. It's quite vibey, but also it's very positive. And then going into
Mm.
the storyteller thing, Helen Green project, which is
Mm.
a bit more moody and a bit more like
Mm.
simpler and stripped down in regards to
Yeah.
production and instruments and things like that. How does that work within yourself as an artist how do you say yourself? Is it something that you feel at the moment? Do you plan writing music like that? Do you how's your approach to writing different pieces of music and creating different types of art?
I guess it depends on the genre, but my approach is normally always the same. Certainly if I'm writing something orchestral, I'll almost always start with melody, coming up with like a lead line, a melodic idea, something that somebody can sing, because, the most successful music is you can sing along to it, you can hum the melody. So I normally start with melody, but sometimes I'll start with a rhythm thing. If it's funk music, maybe I'll start with a bass line. Yeah, I'll often start with something rhythmical, like a drum beat or a bass line if it's funk. Rock and roll, good question. Sometimes some lyrics first. I don't write too many lyrics, but I write some. So I guess it depends on the genre, But I'm sort of comfortable switching between,
And when it comes to like picking up the instrument, what was the first instrument that you picked up and
piano? Yeah. I mean, I can play a little bit of drums, a little bit of bass, a little bit of guitar, but not really, just piano, really, piano and keyboards. That's definitely my instrument. If it's something simple, I can chug some chords on a guitar and play a bit of bass and play a little bit of drums. Then I'll do it myself. But normally I'll just hire someone else to play those instruments, or I'll program them, often with drums. Program drums are so good these days.
Yeah, they're excellent. I mean, you can program things, but it's really good when you actually work with a drummer that you really like their drumming, because they will always get that and actually add, to the drumming track. They will change, they will adapt, add parts to it, which is what you expect from a drummer, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what you hope for. Yeah.
When you're on the road, what are the difficulties that you find being on the road? Is there anything in particular, like, I don't know, diet or exercise or waking up early?
Only being away from my kids is the worst part. I can't bear that. That never goes away. That's the worst part. No, my diet's pretty much the same. But yeah, I mean, exercise. I'm so tired all the time, and I just don't have the energy to go and run. And like, when can you next do laundry? Some of the gigs have washing machines, and you do all your laundry at the gig. So it's just like, it's too much. So I never exercise when I'm on the road. I'll go for a walk, I'll walk around maybe, but I'm a big sport guy. I play a lot of tennis and I run, and when I'm at home, I exercise every day. So for me to not exercise for 2 months is very, very unusual. And I stretch every day, and I don't, because there's no room on the bus. I'm trying to find a place. So yeah, the lack of exercise, the lack of sleep, and being away from my kids, those are the main things, But my diet remains pretty similar. I try and eat pretty healthy as much as I can. We got fed really well while we were on tour for the most part. So yeah, those things are the hardest.
Do you find benefit? Do you take yourself any supplements? Do you find any benefits on taking supplements on the road? Is that something that you're into it, or you not?
No, just vitamins, just the same as I do at home, like vitamin C, zinc, vitamin D, multivitamins, that kind of thing.
When you're at home, do you follow any particular morning routines? I bet, with kids and stuff. I mean, obviously, they take most part of the morning.
Yeah. We're up at like 7. I normally wake up at 7. And then we just get the kids up, get them off to school. I walk one of my kids to the bus. The bus stop is literally 2 blocks from the house, so that's amazing. He gets on the school bus. And then I come back and I drive the other one to school, and he's 10 minutes away. So by like 8:15, I'm in the studio. I'm done with the school run and stuff. So it's really very painless. I know some people drive for an hour to get their kids to school. We're so lucky. We live minutes from their school. So and then I'm basically free until school pickup, which is at 3:30 or whatever.
So you're a bit of an early riser, but that's obviously
not by choice. Not before I had kids. No, not at all. No, I would normally go to bed at like 3 or 4, and get up at midday before I had kids.
That's a pretty standard pattern for musicians and artists in
Yeah,
general, isn't it?
totally. Well, if you're playing music or staying up, and I used to like to stay up and play video games and watch movies, and if I got too tired to work, I would still stay up, and so definitely not naturally an early riser.
Yeah, yeah. Harry, let's go back a little bit and tell me a little bit about your upbringing. Where were you born, and where did you go to school? Did you go to university? And at what age did you actually picked up the piano and started practicing more seriously? And at what point did you find yourself like, okay, great, I'm gonna follow this path. I'm gonna have a musical career. I'm gonna be a musician. And if you could just tell us a little bit about that, please.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in London, like southwest London, near Richmond. Really nice, kind of a leafy suburb. There's a huge park there. I mean, it's huge, like right in the middle of London. It's 12 miles wide, I think. I mean, it's massive, So I grew up living right on the edge of that. So that was amazing. And then, I went to local school there until I was 11. Like day school, and then when I was 11 I went to boarding school, so I spent the last 7 years between 11 and 18 in a school called Bedales, which was an hour and a half out of London, staying at the school in the week, and then I would be home for weekends. But I started playing piano when I was about 8. I had a local piano teacher from home, and I enjoyed it, but I played for like 10 or 20 minutes a day, a little bit of practice, but I wasn't one of those kids that's like, this is all I want to do, And then when I went to school at 11, when I went to the boarding school, the teacher there just opened me up to Scott Joplin and Fats Waller and all these other kinds of music that I'd never been exposed to, And that's when I really fell in love with it. So from the age of like 11 until about 15 or 16, I just practiced all the time, like hours a day, as much as I could. And then I took up guitar when I was 15. So I didn't really play piano for a few years then. I played guitar solidly for about 3 or 4 years. Little bit of keyboards and piano still, but mainly guitar. So I can play a little bit of guitar. But then it wasn't until I never really thought, I'm going to do this as a job. I just always really enjoyed it. And then I was about 19, 20, and I'd had a couple of stupid jobs, just like, I don't know, I found like these dumb jobs. They're too stupid to even mention, I did that, and then I thought, this is ridiculous. All I want to be doing is playing music, so I should really just be a musician, and make my living doing that. So this was before the internet. So this would have been like 95 or something like that. So there was no like internet really then. And I looked in the back of what it was called Loot, and it was the local like newspaper it was like an eBay, but in paper, and so you could buy stuff and you could meet people and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, the back page of Loot was always musicians' adverts, and so I thought, good place to start. And I looked and I saw an advert and it said, Led Zeppelin cover band, require keyboard player. We also love Queen and I can't remember a bunch of other bands, and I was like, that's the job for me. So I joined that, and I was in that band for 5 years. So that's how I really cut my teeth learning how to play rock and roll. So I learned every Led Zeppelin song, and on guitar as well. There was a guitar player, but there's 2 guitars on a lot of those tracks. So I learned the harmony parts and some of the rhythm parts, and like the 12-string guitar part in Song Remains the Same, and a harmony guitar in Black Dog, and so I was playing keyboards and guitar, and then acoustic guitar, and so that was a lot of fun. And then I've been playing music ever since. And after I'd been doing that for about a year, I then joined another tribute band, which was a Grateful Dead tribute band, and we toured all over Europe and the UK and stuff. So for about 4 or 5 years, I was in those 2 bands, and then also my own band, an indie rock band. And then it just went from there. That was when I was then, like, I guess, a professional musician from 19 or 20, I guess.
That's really cool that you navigated, like, the cover band's world, and it was like Led Zeppelin and Grateful Dead, and then you had an indie rock band, and eventually you focused way more into neoclassical and ambient music and soundtrack, and that's kind of like where your world is more somewhat focused, I would say, nowadays, right? Writing real pieces of music instead of just like,
Yeah, I do a lot of writing now because I don't want to be on the road the whole time. I want to be making a living from home. So, best way to do that is writing music.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, people. I always say, I mean, there's a big difference between being just a musician and or an artist versus someone that actually can write music. You can obviously
Yeah.
combine both, but if you can write music, that's where
Yeah.
literally like the gold is at, right? Because then you can
Yeah.
just produce, and as soon as you
Yeah.
get clients, you can like write for particular genres or themes for
Yeah.
movies, for soundtracks, for all sorts, which is something that you're very familiar of. You've been doing
Yeah.
this for a long time. I find it
Yeah.
really amazing. Did you have any particular like did you go to university at all? You didn't.
No.
Did you
No.
have any like classical training, anything like you just
No.
self-taught? Guitar as well.
I had piano lessons when I was, a kid, obviously, and then I had piano lessons throughout throughout my time at boarding school. So that gave me a good basis. But then once I was 18, I taught myself how to play jazz, and I just started going to jazz jams and trying to play as much. So for about 10 years, I just learned how to play jazz, and did that. And then only really in the last 10 years have I studied classical music and started diving into that, huge catalogue work of Chopin and Schubert and Beethoven and Mozart and Brahms, all of that. So, learning to sight read better, and yeah.
Fantastic.
Mm.
What I think like especially for musicians out there, I myself I studied classical music myself, and I graduated as a classical singer, and obviously that was never my main focus. I was always into rock and roll and metal and all that. But it's such a difficult path to thread, like being a musician and being able to be in a position where you actually create music and you are able to actually make a living out of it. I was just thinking about like again this morning I was on a run and I was listening to the Harry Waters band and like in London I can't find places to actually go see that quality of music, to listen to that.
I mean, there's a few places like the Vortex Jazz Club, which I think is in East London. There's 606 on the Lotts Road, just off the King's Road. That's the other one. Jazz Cafe in Camden. I guess those are the three main ones that are jazz clubs. They play just jazz. Those are the best places.
Because like people sometimes, I always see like musicians in general like struggling to make a living, and it's very difficult to. It really is the art and the music industry. It's a very difficult business to be in because there's way too many people, but not a lot of work available, and people tend to be quite. The business tends to be quite narrow, and it's a lot about who do you know, your relationships, and things like that. So for somebody to actually get into this world nowadays, say go into a university and study music and study classical music and eventually be part of an orchestra or be a conductor, it's something really kind of like it's very there's not a lot of safety and security in doing that. From your experience, like in this world, I mean, from everything that you have seen in your life, what would you say? What would you say that like is something that people should perhaps like focus in terms of like, okay, obviously you got to be good at what you do, you got to learn your craft, you got to put the time into it. But like in terms of the business of getting a job or getting a place in a band, or to perhaps get your music heard by a good publisher, what would you say from your experience would be something that you would I'm not sure if it's an advice, just like talking from experience, how to put music in front of people perhaps.
It's the hardest part. Just play, getting out there, playing, writing, just doing everything that you can. I mean, nowadays the exposure part is way easier because of social media, so just start releasing music. I know there's a glut of music. I think there's like 60,000 tracks a day are being uploaded to Spotify. So obviously you can't just chuck your music out there and hope it gets heard. Being good at PR and self-publicity is really good. Getting on in.
Oh, no. What happened here? Harry, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Harry?
Yeah, are you there?
Sorry,
Can you hear
sorry.
me?
Don't know what happened. I just clicked the button here on my keyboard and everything went haywire. Sorry.
That's okay, no problem. Yeah, so just just get out there and play. Join as many bands as you can, meet as many people as you can, play with as many people as you can. And if you're good, people will say, "Oh, do you want to come and do this gig?" And then you'll meet someone else, and they'll hear you and go, "Oh, you're good. Do you want to come and do this gig?" And then hopefully you become successful.
Hopefully it becomes successful. Exactly. Yeah. It's really crazy. I mean, there are no certainties, and in this world of ours that we live, that obviously we live in a system where we all need a job, we all need money, we all need to fund our lives, and there's no way around it. You can't just and I guess back in the day, I always hear from people that grew up in the 60s, in the 70s, perhaps maybe even in the 80s, that there was like people, like I have friends in Scandinavia where like literally like 20 years ago they were getting paid by the government to literally just go home and study music and create something. So there was incentives to do that. You could actually get out of school and don't go to uni, but like you could have financial support to try for 3 years, for 4 years to create something. Nowadays, I mean, especially coming out of COVID, I mean, we all heard many crazy stories of self-employed people that, I mean, didn't have where to go basically to claim any benefits or anything like that. And here in England, things are like obviously just getting crazier and crazier. I mean, everything is so. I mean, it's really difficult. Just yesterday, I was hearing from friends that run like grassroots venues here in London. The fact that they are expecting 100 venues by the end of the year to shut down, because and the funny fact is that they say there's no bands to come and play. There's no people are not willing to come and travel anymore because everything costs so much money. So in order for you to actually establish and create something is extremely difficult. Myself with the bands that I work with, it's always a bit like that. You kind of have to have a good product, a good music, obviously have some level of something a bit original about it. We all know that it's extremely difficult nowadays to come up with something with the next big thing. But as long as you kind of like can go through like the transition from being too old school into being a little bit more modern in terms of the production, the sound, and delivered live, obviously, and eventually getting the attention of like good management and the booking agency and eventually the label, then you stand a chance. But then there's so many factors that influence that, right? Eventually, and eventually you might just have a family. Eventually you might just say, you know what, I'm just gonna go back to my accountancy job and settle down. And it's really difficult. It's really difficult. For you personally, was there any moments in your life that you like going through the journey? Because we all have those moments in one way or another that you question yourself, that you sat down and you're like, maybe I should change the course. Maybe I should do something different. I don't know. Was there any moment that you felt like that at all?
No, not really. No, I don't know what I would do if I didn't do music. Maybe work with animals or something, or maybe work on computers. Maybe like a programmer or something. But no, I don't. I honestly, I don't know what I'd do if I didn't do music. Don't know what I'd do.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I've always had the same feeling, always had the same feeling. What would I do if I wouldn't do music? But then eventually I swerved from being, an artist into like working in the music business, which is not that much different in many ways, You gotta really find your way amongst so many people, and then eventually, you get a break and then, start getting work and yeah, the line of work that we do, you can't really apply for a job, isn't it? You can't just go there and apply for a job,
No. It's all about networking and just getting your name out there, as I said, you just need people to know your name.
Yeah.
And you just do that by playing, or doing whatever it is that you do. If you want to, put music on SoundCloud or Spotify and somehow get it out there, however you want to publicize yourself, that's what you have to do.
Do you normally put music out there by yourself, or do you work with any publishing companies or any labels or anything?
No, I mean I self-distribute normally. I have a few bits of music that have been put out under record deals and stuff, but no, mainly just on my own.
Growing up, what was your favorite bands? What were you listening to? What was the band? What was the music that really?
Well, the first one was the Beach Boys. When I was like 7, I heard Pet Sounds. You know, that just blew me away. And the Allman Brothers and King Crimson and Black Sabbath, but a lot of like 50s music, like Little Richard and Buddy Holly, that kind of thing, like 50s kind of pop music and Elvis. And then the Beatles and Led Zeppelin and Dr. John, and I think I said the Allman Brothers already. Yeah, all of those. You know, I mean, the list is endless. I could name names forever. Bob Dylan, you know, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, that kind of thing. But then a lot of funk as well. You know, Headhunters and the Meters, and you know, and then fusion. So Billy Cobham and Mahavishnu and orchestra and Stanley Clarke and you know all that kind of stuff. Chick Corea.
Is there anything that you recently have heard of, listened to, that really like caught up and you like really start to pay attention to it?
Yeah, recently someone recommended to me Steve Reich, Music for 18 Musicians, which I've never heard of. Like, I know who Steve Reich is, but I've never really listened to his music, so that was great. I really enjoyed that.
Steve Reich, okay.
Yeah, R-E-I-C-H. He's I think he's German composer, and that's amazing. Not really. It's quite unusual. It's quite unusual for me to discover sort of new music that I've never heard of. You know. No, I mean, I love a band called Cornelius. Don't know if you know them. Like Japanese. They're incredible. I mean, it's one. They're a band, but it's basically one guy, and then he has a band, and they're incredible. They're just absolutely amazing. They're one of my favorite bands ever. It's like Japanese. God, technical pop, like really insane. Pop. Yeah, like really difficult pop music. You know,
difficult pop music.
They're just amazing. Whenever they come to LA, I go and see them, and they just blow me away. I mean, we were playing. You know, we've done a bunch of festivals, and Ween were on the same stage as us the next night. So, maybe the night before we played, Ween were there. So. I went and saw them. They're one of my favourites. But nothing new. I'm always on the lookout for exciting new music. You know.
Do you like attending gigs yourself? Is it something that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm so lazy in LA. Like, if you have to go to a gig, it's at least 2 hours in the car. And for most bands, I'm like, I can't. I just can't. I do always go and see Cornelius. So, I went to one with Sugar. I didn't go and see the Eagles, and then Glenn Fry died, so that was bloody stupid. I should have done that. But I did go and see Dead and Company. That was really good fun. But yeah, it's just such a pain in the neck to go and see live music. It's because LA is so big. It's always so much traveling, and I tend not to bother going out, you know. But I do, whenever I see live music, I just love it, you know. But there's not many bands that I'm really that into. There's not many that I would go and make the effort to go and see.
What for you, is there a big, like, obviously there's a big cultural difference, but like for you moving from England to Los Angeles and obviously living there with your family, what actually, is there anything in particular that happened professionally that made you make that move, or was it something completely not involved with music?
No, I had 18 months left on my visa, so I'd been working in America, so I had a year and a half left where I could be there legally. And my kids were babies. They were like 3 and 2 or 4 and 3, something like that. And so my wife and I just said, oh, let's do it. We often talked about it. So we said, let's go for a year, see if we like it, you know. And that was 10 years ago. It'll be 10 years in November. So, yeah, not really. We just thought, let's go for an adventure. And I wanted to be composing more, and obviously that's the centre of the industry. So it seemed like a good place to go. You know, and it's sunny and the weather's nice, and you can surf and bike ride, and you know, it's easier to be healthy and be outdoors there. It's just always so fucking grey and cold in England. It's just a nightmare. It's hard to be outdoors in England. You know,
true. Yeah.
So I love that about LA.
It's true. Yeah, I mean, I love London, but from all of the places in the world that I contemplate the idea of eventually moving to, is Los Angeles for all of the reasons that you have just mentioned it, you know.
Yeah.
And obviously the weather is just so nice. It's always so great, and
Yeah.
you have the mountains, and obviously you can go all the way up to Lake Tahoe if you want the mountains and
Yeah.
snow and all that.
Mm.
So it's a fantastic place to be, you know. I mean, I really really love
Mm.
Los Angeles, and London is just. I mean, this last July was just crazy, rain
Yeah.
and cold, and it's like
Yeah.
the summer that never was, you know.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
Do you have, Harry, any? Are you spiritual at all? Do you have any spiritual practices?
No, I'm healthy, and as I say, I do exercise, and that keeps me sane. You know, just playing music and being physically active and fit and healthy. And I play a lot of chess and puzzles, and I keep my mind. I read a lot, so that keeps me, keeps me happy.
But no particular beliefs. No.
No, I'm the atheist and skeptical. So I love science. I believe in science, and I like reading about science and human nature and how it's developing and all of that stuff. But no, I'm not. I wouldn't describe myself as spiritual. I mean, to be spiritual presupposes the existence of a spirit, or a soul, which I don't believe in. So it might be disingenuous of me to say, but I'm not a big thinker. Don't have a great deal of existential angst. I don't ponder the world too much. I just get on with it and enjoy life. I don't think there's a grand design. I don't believe in fate. I believe in chance. So yeah, I'm not spiritual.
Very cool. Very cool. What's your view about money?
Oh, I like money.
Who doesn't, right?
Money means so different things to so many to different people. For me, it's very much like security. I'm not a spender. I mean, I just have the same. I have about 3 pairs of jeans, a bunch of black t-shirts, and that's pretty much it. I hate spending. It's not that I hate spending money, but I've got everything I need. I don't really need anything. So yeah, money is just security. And I mean, my life is very expensive at the moment because I've got children. And they're 14 and 13, and they're in private school, and that's expensive. And living in LA is very expensive. So yeah, for me, it's just security. I don't like it. I hate shopping, like more than anything in the world. I hate shopping. Amazon to me is the greatest. I don't care what people say about Jeff Bezos. He's made my life so much better. I never have to go in a shop ever again. I hate shopping for food. I hate shopping for clothes. I loathe it. Going into any shop. You know what? I'm on tour and there's a record shop. I can go and spend a few minutes in there and flip through some records, and that's fine. But I would never buy any. I don't. I'm not a vinyl guy, so I would never buy anything. So yeah, money for me is just security. I just want enough to not have to worry about money.
Yeah, you've mentioned it, like having kids in the US. Obviously, the system is so very different than the one in England. So everything costs, right? Medical costs and school and this and that. Transport, obviously, everything is so crazy expensive. Have you ever contemplated the idea of, well, I guess when you moved to Los Angeles, your kids were very little, so obviously that was taken into consideration. But then, like you said, it was supposedly a year that you guys were going to spend there, but eventually turned out to be the last 10 years. So was there any moment that you 2 questions actually here, out of my personal interest, because I don't have any kids, but was there any conversation between you and your wife about the educational system? Say we're gonna have kids brought up in the US or kids brought up in England. Was there anything? Was that?
Yeah, we did talk about it, but not so much as England or the US. Once we were in America, it was just the decision was made for us. Obviously, they're going to be in school in America. We have talked about once they're done with school, which will be Stan's 13, so 5 years tops. That they will both be out of school. Maybe we move back here so they can go to college in England. but no, not really about schooling them in America or the UK. That was never really part of any conversation as to why we moved, you know. So they're in school there now, and they'll be doing that for the next 4 years, whatever it is, 4 or 5 years, and then we'll see. Maybe we'll come back to England, but maybe not. I don't know.
What's a perfect day on your life?
Well, that's good. My 40th birthday was really good. I remember it clearly. I woke up and I worked for a few hours, and I think Rochelle made me normally my wife and I make each other breakfast in bed on our birthdays. So I think I had breakfast in bed, which was pretty nice. The kids went to school. I worked. I can't remember what I was doing, but I worked for a few hours. And then I think I hung out with Rochelle. Can't really remember that bit. But then I remember my kids came home and we watched Raiders of the Lost Ark for them the first time. You know, I've seen it hundreds of times. But that was really nice. And that was a good day. But I don't know, any day where I can play some music and do some work. I love working. When I'm not working, I don't like it very much. So I like working. But I love playing tennis. You know, if I can play some tennis, go for a run, do a bit of work, read a bit. You know, I play chess. I'm like completely obsessed with chess. So as long as I can play some chess or study some chess, and I'm a very simple guy. I don't need much. You know, that's a perfect day for me. Don't need anything else.
Do you like cooking yourself?
No. I can cook a few things, you know. I can cook quite a few good pastas, and you know, I make. Every English person can make like a Sunday lunch, so like roast chicken with vegetables and roast potatoes and stuff. So I can do that, and like a cooked breakfast in England, it's called a full English. So it's like eggs, bacon, sausages, and it's very easy, very simple. But no, I'm not really a cook. But yeah, never really got that bug. Don't really enjoy it. You know, food for me is, I mean, I enjoy when I'm hungry. I do like to eat and hang out and everything. But most of the time, if I could just take a pill, I would. I hate having to stop work in the day, like for lunch. It drives me crazy. I just want to keep working. I don't want to have to stop for lunch. You know, it's just irritating, you know? Yeah. If I never had to eat again, I'd be totally fine with that, you know? Totally fine.
Interesting how people, because it's a food, it's such a, it's a thing that actually gets people together, right? You say, hey.
Totally. Oh, that's great. I like that bit. You know, I like eating together and the whole social aspect. And obviously when you're hungry, your favorite food is so intensely pleasurable. I do get that. You know, I love it when like, oh my God, we're going to have like Indian food tonight or some Italian. I'm like, then yeah, I love it. It's great. But sometimes normally in the day, if I'm working, I don't want to have to stop and eat. You know, I just want to keep working. Mm-hmm. But yeah, if it's like with friends and family and you're getting together and eating good food, then yeah, I think I get just as much pleasure out of that as most people seem to do, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy that. But yeah, I mean, if I won the lottery, the first thing I'm going to do is hire a chef. And never, ever have to think about food again. I'll just say, I want this thing, and then it will appear in front of me. That would be, if I had one member of staff, it would be a chef.
Yeah, a chef.
Yeah, it would be a chef. Yeah. And then if I had two, it would probably be maybe a chef and a masseuse. And then if I had three, maybe a driver. If I had enough money, I'd have a chef, a driver, and a masseuse.
Amazing.
And a PA, maybe. You know, so just pay all my bills and deal with all the boring shit, you know?
So you don't like driving then? Not much.
No. It's fine. I don't mind. It's fine.
LA traffic.
Yeah, I couldn't. No. I'd rather be a passenger and look around and stuff. But it's fine. I don't mind it. You know, I don't like get in the car and go, God damn it, I've got to drive again. Yeah. I don't do too much driving in LA. You know, I drive to the school, the kids' schools and back, and maybe to the beach. You know, it's rare that I do a lot. I don't do a lot of driving. I don't have a commute every day. Mm-hmm. So it's fine. But you know, it's not like fun for me to drive. Mm-hmm. It's something you have to do.
This question, I mean, you kind of answered the question already, but I'm just going to ask it anyways. Since food is like not something that is constantly on your mind, clearly.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah.
if you're in need of a treat, if you want something,
Yeah.
and we all have that kind of thing that, you know, we
Yeah.
really love, it might be cheeky, so you don't eat all the time. What would that
Yeah.
be?
There's such an easy question. I met salt and vinegar crisps, like chips, they call them in America, you know, but in England we call them crisps. So in particular, the flavour, salt and vinegar, that's hands down my favourite thing. But, you know, they're so bad for you, so I don't eat a huge amount of them. On tour, it was part of the rider, so I did eat some, like, every day. But I eat a lot of fruit. You know, I eat bananas and apples. I like eating a lot of fruit. Yogurt I really like. But I weirdly, having said that, I don't think about food. I've got very low blood pressure, my blood sugar level. I've been the same weight since I was 20 years old. I don't know what it is in kilos, but I've been 154 pounds since I was 20 years old. I can eat anything and everything, and I never put on weight ever.
Wow.
Never, you know. But the downside to that is I'm hungry all the time. And if I don't eat when I'm hungry, I get headache, I feel sick, like I feel like I'm going to die, you know. So I have to eat like 5 times a day, which is really irritating because I don't want to have to do that, you know.
A chef would really work for you then, Harry.
It would be perfect. It would just be perfect, you know. Yeah, it's really annoying. We call it hangry. So it's a cross between hungry and angry. I get incredibly hangry if I don't have calories in me. I go crazy. You know, I can't handle it. You know.
Super cool. Are you into podcasts? Is that something that you?
I've been listening to. Probably listened to about 20 of the Lex Friedman podcasts. You ever listened to him?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Lex Friedman.
Yeah, I've listened to all the chess ones, pretty much all like sort of computer ones. So the people who are designing AI to beat chess and poker, and I listened to the Ray Kurzweil one. I've listened to the Chris Voss one, who's the FBI negotiator.
Chris Voss. Interesting.
Yeah, Chris Voss. Yeah, he's cool. And I've listened to I can't remember the Annika Harris one. She's a friend. I'm friends with Annika and Sam Harris, so I've listened to a lot of his podcasts. You know, sometimes, but I don't listen to a great deal. Sometimes in the car, I'll listen to a podcast. I mean, I have listened to about 20 of those in the last few months, and they're about 2 hours each. So that's quite a lot, I suppose. You know. Mm-hmm. But normally in the car I listen to music, maybe 50-50 music and podcasts, you know, but I would never do it at home. You know, I'd never sit down and listen to a podcast at home.
How do you consume music? Is it DSPs?
Yeah, Spotify.
Spotify, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just do everything on Spotify now. I've given it, I think I might still have all my CDs. I haven't quite been able to sort of throw them away, but they're completely redundant. I mean, they're just gathering dust.
I love CDs and vinyl. I have a huge collection.
I did well. You know, I've got like thousands of CDs, but why get a CD when you can instantly play it on your phone? Mm-hmm. You know, just and believe me, as evil as Spotify is, I mean, I have so much music on Spotify, and I know how much you get paid. You know, because I get the paycheck. For 1 million streams, you get about $4,000, $3,500–$4,000.
And how many artists get 1 million streams? That's another point, isn't it?
Yeah, not many. I mean, I'm at nearly 500,000 streams a month, maybe 450,000 with all my different, and that's a shit ton of music. You know, that's music of my own, my bands and collaborations. I've got so much music on Spotify. You know, and I stream nearly 500,000 streams a month. So that's that's still like $2,000 a month. You know, so I'm not like complaining of making $2,000 a month, but for 1 million fucking streams, I should be making tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars. You know, it's completely skewed. And then you've got Daniel Ek, the fucking arsehole who started Spotify, who's like got $4 billion. Fuck him, man. You know, when people are complaining about not earning enough money, he just says, "Oh, make more music, make more music, put more music up there." You know, and it's like, no, fucking pay the people who pay your wages, you asshole. You know, that's my feeling about him. You know, and yet I pay for Spotify. Put money in his pocket each month because it's a great service. It's convenient, and you know. So there you go. Mixed feelings about Spotify.
I think it would be way more fair. I mean, I can't remember exactly. I think there's a name for the system, or a name for how they should do it. I think SoundCloud is a bit based on this, which is say you're paying 10 quid a month for the subscription, but then I've been listening to 50% of the time to Harry Waters music, and 15% music, pop music, which would be artist A, and then 15%. And then basically, instead of my money going into this general pot, which then is divided by, you know, how much like the percentage of the of what label A, B, and C are getting streamed, and then eventually that funnels down into the label, which that funnels down into the artist based on their percentage with their deals. But it would be way more fair of, like, say, if I'm a fan of A, B, and C, and I've been listening to all those bands all month long, for my money to be going directly to them and their representatives, you know, publisher and label and all that, instead of like my money going into this general pot, and I'm basically paying my subscription, and my money is going into the pockets of artists that I have never heard of, might never listened to. So I think if eventually we could figure out how to get a system in place, things would get better, because then, on your particular case, you just mentioned 500,000 people listening to your music monthly. That would be a dramatic increase on your personal income, wouldn't it?
Might get rich. It'd be pretty good.
Which is something extremely difficult, like you know, with classical music and ambient music and soundtrack and movies and things like that. But you know, you could get there eventually. So Harry, just being mindful of your time here, I'm going to start winding up the conversation. I'd like to ask you, what are you reading at the moment, if anything?
I've just finished reading The Witcher, which I didn't really enjoy. That, you know, they made video games out of it.
Did you see the series? Did you watch the series?
Nah, I didn't really like it. You know, I played the video games, and I love the video games. You know, I'm a gamer. I love video games. I didn't like it. I thought Henry Cavill was great. I thought he was very good, you know, as The Witcher. But no, didn't really like it. So I just finished reading that book, and now so I finished that, and I'm halfway through. Oh, Carl, you still there? Hello?
Back, yeah.
You still there? I'm reading a book called Psychedelics, and it's by Professor David Nutt, and it's very interesting. It's sort of similar to the book by Michael Pollan called How to Change Your Mind, you know, which they made into a series on Netflix and everything. So it's sort of similar to that, just a study on psychedelics and their medicinal use, you know, all the research that's going into, well, all of them really, but for PTSD and addiction, like alcoholism and drug addiction, and anxiety and depression, all this kind of stuff. You know, the research is just slowly kicking off. These drugs are going to be incredible, you know, for treating so many things that we treat with other drugs now. You know, the main ones at the moment are ketamine and psilocybin.
MDMA?
And to a lesser extent, but yes, MDMA. But that's harder because it's more, I don't know, it's class A. It's like higher up the list of illegality in most places than ketamine and psilocybin. It's like harder for people to clear, so there are less people doing it, but there are people doing it. And the results are very, very encouraging, very, very promising for people with depression mainly. So anyway, it's very, very interesting.
Absolutely.
So,
I'm very into what you say and this subject in general, because the pharmaceutical industry is so powerful that they didn't want and they don't want us to be able to have access to, for example, what in America is already taking place past FDA phase 3 already. So clinics are actually up and running, treating PTSD patients, people with severe alcoholism, and in 2-3 sessions, a lot of these people they see a way out. We're not talking about being completely healed, but we're talking about people that have been going through therapy, taking antidepressants for years, and they can't see a light at the end of the tunnel. And just by 2 sessions, something happens. They have an experience, obviously accompanied by professionals that are there for the right purpose of it. You're not talking, like you said, we're not talking about recreational use, but it's incredible because it's very cheap. All of those a lot of people are not using the word drug, they're using the medicine, those medicines. They are very cheap to produce, and it's something that with very little time you can give people a level of hope that they've never had with anything, with therapy, with antidepressants. And it's extremely interesting, the whole history of it, Timothy Leary and everything that happened back then, and now the re-emergence of it. Do you know Tim Ferriss? You ever heard of his podcast?
Tim Ferriss? No, don't know.
No. I'm going to share with you, he's one of the guys that are really putting a lot of money into research, into what Johns Hopkins are doing with the research, and he's very close to Michael Pollan. Lots of podcasts between the two of them. So it's really interesting what's coming, and I love it because it's true. It's just something that people should at least have the chance to experiment with. Again, with the right people around, with the right intent behind it. But we just live in a world where currently it's very clear that a lot of things are not really working. The financial system, the capitalism, we're destroying the planet. People are getting lots of the levels of suicide and people getting depressed and anxiety are just skyrocketing. So we should definitely try to kind of find ways to get everyone on this planet to just feel a little bit better about themselves, and as a consequence about the world that we all live in.
Agreed.
Harry, thank you so much for your time, man.
You're welcome.
Good to see you, good talking to you, and hopefully we'll cross paths sometime soon.
Definitely, I hope so.
Nice one.
Cool, man. Take care, Carl. See you, man.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.